Are Phoenix home prices declining? This is a question that I get all of the time. I also get a lot of concern over this happening and a lot of predictions out there saying that this is going to happen. But we're going to talk in detail about that today and who messed up. There's a prediction that's way off base, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that. So, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining me. I'm Caitlin McCagg. I'm a real estate broker here in Phoenix, Arizona. So, this is just a combination of headlines to give you the gist of what happened with the Fed last week. They had their annual Jackson Hole meeting, and basically the overall tone, inflation too high, higher rates may be needed, inflation fight isn't over. You get it. So it was pretty clear what we're in for the rest of the year. Now, mind you, the federal funds rate is not directly tied to mortgage interest rates. So keep that in mind. That doesn't mean that mortgage rates are going up, but all of what they do ends up affecting the markets, which then changes mortgage rates, and they react based on that. But good news, if you are a buyer and you are, well, I guess it's not good news. It's neutral news, okay? Absolutely no surprises from Powell. This is Mortgage News Daily talking about what happened with interest rates last week in terms of mortgages. Mortgage rates slightly higher, but no major volatility. So, I mean, I'll take that as a win. No volatility, that's all we've been seeing lately. So if we had somewhat of a stable week, I'm going to say that's a good thing. But if you're out there as a buyer, make sure you're checking in with your lender often because rates have been changing quickly and demand is hurting a little bit from these rates. We're in the sevens. There's talk of going to the eights possibly. There's still buyers out there. And on that note, I have a story for you guys that I'm going to share at the end, just a tales from the trenches, if you will, a story of what has been happening to some of my clients this week. So I'll get into that at the end. Now, this week, we're going to get some additional economic news coming out. So we're going to get the PCE, which is the personal consumption expenditure, which is an inflation reading. We're also going to get some jobs reports from ADP and the BLS. So all of that could change mortgage rates. We'll just have to keep an eye on things. So let's move on to this lovely prediction. Let's talk about pricing. I mentioned this last week and I can't help but bring it up again, and let's just dig in a little bit more and see what prices actually look like. So if you recall, at the beginning of this year, Goldman Sachs called out a number of cities, Phoenix being one of them, as the potential decline of more than 25% in home prices. And this scared the heck out of a lot of people. I did get a lot of outreach from potential clients and friends and family of, what do you think of this article? Is this really going to happen? Should I wait to buy? Should I not sell my house? And frankly, it makes me really sad because if I was getting all of that outreach, I'm sure a lot of other agents were getting the same outreach, and people made decisions based on this information. And they couldn't have been more wrong. And they not only could they not have been more wrong, they're actually saying like, okay, wait, now that we're coming to the end of this year, I'm going to say we're not declining in prices, but we're actually going to see an increase of 1.8% for the full year of 2023. Now, mind you, this article here isn't talking specifically about Phoenix, but had they still had that massive, scary prediction, I think they would have mentioned that here too. But no, overall 1.8% increase is what we're saying. So you can understand why this makes me sad. It's a very salacious prediction to make that gets a lot of interest and fear in people. And unfortunately, you know, if you are someone who sold quicker than you expected to try to avoid this, or if you're someone who waited to purchase because you thought you'd have a 25% decline in prices that you could snatch up, and now you don't, you're just getting higher prices than January. It's sad. It's really sad. But I guess moral of the story is, you really have to just make a real estate decision based on your situation, not only financially, but your lifestyle, your family, your job, of course. All of those things are super important. And the only way you can make a good decision is making that decision that's best for you. and not trying to listen to anyone, including me, for your, decision making in real estate. I can give you data and trends and, give you a professional opinion on what I think might happen, but I don't know either. So moving on, let's talk about pricing. So what actually happened with prices this year? Monthly median sales price, the pink line, 2023, clearly we've gone up. This is on a weekly basis, these dots plotted here, just so you can see a better trend of what's taken place. We're not going up still by any means. We're just kind of hanging around here. And things are certainly slower, especially in terms of transaction volume. But we definitely did not see a massive decline of 25% or even 10% or 5%. All we've done is go up this year. So this is where we're at with sales prices. But for everyone thinking like sales prices are historical, you can't use that as, a predictor. You are correct. Let's look at list prices. Okay. So this is more of real time. These prices can be negotiated to be something different for sure, but this at least shows us where homes are being priced today. The sales prices are 30 days or more in the past because they were negotiated at that time and take 30 days to close and record. So average list price per square foot, we're seeing the same thing. From the beginning of the year, this trend has gone up. We've seen a slight decrease throughout the last couple months. But if you look again at these historical years, we're also seeing the same thing here too. And that is largely because summer is a little bit slower. People aren't listing their homes quite as, confidently because activity is lower. We also see a drop off in luxury homes during the summer because luxury, typically people are, living their part-time, they're snowbirds, whatnot. They get out of town in the summer. They want nothing to do with anything here in Phoenix in the summer. And so we don't see a lot of activity in the luxury market, which would push up this average list price per square foot when you have some of those high dollar homes in there. Or if you take them out, obviously brings it down. So that's kind of our typical dip that we see. But again, same thing holds true here. You see the last few years have just been off the normal trend. Regardless, though, we've seen an increase this year. List pricing and sales prices. And so if we're going to see any prices come down in Phoenix, it might be slight, or we need to be on the cusp of some crazy, factor coming into the market that's going to really dip home prices. So my opinion of the Goldman Sachs new prediction is that seems a little bit more correct. I just see us kind of riding out this year with stable pricing. So that's that. Let's talk about the Cromford Market Index. If you're new here, I'm a subscriber to the Cromford Report, and they have this market index that looks at supply and demand in our market, and that helps us determine where prices are heading. So the way that their index works, any number over 110 is a seller's market. 158.5, that's gone down a little bit in the last few weeks. We actually were at 159 last week, I believe, and 160 before that. Demand has also gone down. That was in the 80s. We're at 77. So with 100 being normal, that's 23% below normal. Supply index, 48.6. Supply is just really low. We still have this constrained supply situation, 52% below normal if 100 is considered their balance or their normal balance range. So that's what the CMI is saying this week. This has softened a little bit, but overall not a ton of movement. And then we can also look at this for every city, major city in the valley, to find out where their CMI is. Chandler leading the charge. Gilbert actually, I think last week was had some increase on their CMI, and now they are this week a little bit lower. There's only 2 cities here that show improvement for sellers. I say this every week, but if you're new, these arrows are from the perspective of the seller. So if it's green, it means you got more leverage as a seller. If it's red, it means you have less leverage as a seller, comparing the month over month change. Now, they always look at the average change of all of these cities month over month, and every week for the last 3 weeks, we've been seeing that average change get less and less negative, meaning we're seeing more strength come back. We're seeing less decline. So this week, the average change was negative 2.7%. Last week, it was negative 3.3%. So overall, we're still seeing softening, but by a lesser amount. Hopefully that makes sense. Now, story time. Chandler. Chandler is hot. And I am telling you, not only because it says it's hot, but just from my experience. I had a new listing in Chandler this week. We had a ton of interest. We priced really competitively. We are not underpriced by any means. And we have multiple offers. Multiple offers like bringing me back in time to last year in some instances. So don't be fooled by what you hear out there saying that things are slow or you might be able to get a deal. It depends, right? It's going to depend on the city. It's going to depend on the house. This home is beautiful. But it just goes to show that even though rates are, quote, high, depending on your perspective, and prices are higher than they've been, it doesn't mean that there's no buyers out there. And I know a lot of people talk about, well, there's still cash buyers. That can be true too, but all of the interest that I've had has been from financed buyers. So there's a little story for you of what's actually going on in the market. Remains to be seen where we end up in terms of pricing and total offers and all of that stuff. But the interest has certainly been there. But thank you for joining me today, you guys. If you got any value from this, I'd love if you'd hit the like button and subscribe to be part of our community going forward. Check the description below because I have a link where you can set up a time to chat with our team about your situation. You can also just get an instant home valuation and check our MLS for homes for sale if you're starting that home search process. So make sure to check those out, reach out with any questions, and I will be back on Friday.